hope you all had a wonderful week. My name is Hannah Kim and welcome to InfoScope. We are back once again with some of the latest news from the IT and science worlds. Are you familiar with Korea's X Project? It is a committee that accepts scientific questions from anyone and everyone. The goal of the committee is to find questions whose answers may be able to change the world. Now, last month, the committee has announced its first batch of projects. Let's find out more in Briefing Scope. The X Project Committee has announced 29 projects based on the ideas presented by people, such as a portable life-saving device. The Ministry of Science, ICT, and Future Planning will provide research funds to all 29 projects for 1 year and will determine whether further support will be provided at that point. Korean researchers have discovered a new substance that will trigger cell suicide in cancer cells. The substance blocks the protein SKP2, a protein that triggers cancer from reacting to other proteins, making it an effective anti-carcinogen. This substance has shed new light on the fight against cancer. Starting this year, Korean researchers will have easier access to foreign laboratories with state-of-the-art equipment. The Ministry of Science, ICT, and Future Planning has selected 3 industry groups that do not have lab facilities in Korea or use outstanding facilities abroad. They will provide them between $170,000 and $420,000 per year in research funds for the next 3 years. Researchers from England have created a genetically modified mosquito that will cause infertility in the offspring, raising the possibility of eradicating malaria. Malaria is transmitted via mosquitoes, and releasing genetically modified mosquitoes into the wild to disrupt egg production would allow mating but not breeding, thereby reducing the number of mosquitoes capable of malaria transmission. These modified genes can be passed down to a maximum of 5 generations of mosquitoes. It's a great idea with great potential. Anyway, such a small shift of thought can have a great impact, but there are scientists who have opted for a larger shift by introducing science through dance. Let's find out more in Industry Inside.
Familiar tango music plays in the background and a couple is dancing on stage. This looks like your everyday tango session, but this dance actually represents a scientific concept. The dancers represent 2 photons, particles representing a quantum of light. Their movements show how the photons are split by a beam splitter. In this piece, the dancers in white represent white blood cells, while the dancers in black represent invading germs. These videos are all entries in a contest called Dance Your PhD, sponsored by the American Association for the Advancement of Science. The entries express research topics through dance so that the general public can also understand.
Why neutrophils are the martyr cells of the body.
Neutrophils?
Nonsense. Daisy, it's so complicated. See, that's what happens when I try to explain my PhD project to anyone. What should I do?
The scientists and researchers have come out of their labs and became dancers to communicate with the general public. Korean scientists and researchers are not quite used to communicating with the public yet, and they could attempt to use similar methods so that they appear more approachable to the public.
Really nice images of astronauts.
This is a wrench, a common tool used for fastening or loosening nuts and bolts. However, this is no ordinary wrench. It was the first object to be made with a 3D printer in space back in December 2014. The wrench was completed in 2 hours, and the data for the wrench was sent from Earth to the International Space Station. Once 3D printing was confirmed to work in space, NASA decided to incorporate 3D printing into its plans for creating habitats on Mars. NASA held a contest for ideas, and the first place went to the Mars Ice House, which resembles an igloo. The ice house will be constructed with bricks made from Martian ice with a 3D printer, and it consists of 2 domes, one within the other. The space between the domes would be ideal for protecting against radiation and maintaining an indoor temperature of around 5 degrees Celsius. 3D printing is becoming more and more versatile, capable of printing not only tools but also food and even houses. It is expected to give flight to the goal of self-sufficiency in space. For all smokers who have pledged to quit this year, how long have you lasted so far?
스트레스가 많다 보니까 실제로 아무리 시도를 해도 끊을 수가 없고 또 저녁에 뭐 술 한 잔, 약주 한 잔 하게 되면 당연히 또 같이 몸에 배이는 것처럼 습관처럼 돼 있다 보니까 오히려 더 어려움이 많은 것 같습니다.
Nicotine increases the level of dopamine, making a person feel pleasure, and this leads to addiction. Researchers from the University of Virginia in the United States reported that certain variations in DNA sequences can make quitting smoking easier or harder. In other words, genes determine how hard it will be to quit smoking. However, experts and researchers also say that genetics is not the sole factor.
금연을 하기로 선택하는 의지가 가장 중요하다고 생각합니다. 오히려 금연을 도와주는 약물들은 한 2배에서 4배 정도의 효과를 보여주고 있기 때문에 그런 금연 약물들을 잘 사용하셔서 담배를 끊는 것이 중요하겠습니다.
Experts also say that lifestyle changes are also needed to ensure a higher chance of success.
대인관계의 습관이 담배가 없으면 잘 되지 않는 부분도 있고요. 담배를 피지 않으면 말을 잘 하지 못하는 어색함도 같기 때문에 그러한 습관을 교정하는 노력이 필요합니다.
Quitting smoking is the first step towards a healthy life. Strong willpower and effort will lead to success. Good luck in your goals to quit smoking. Bats are known to hang upside down from cave ceilings and come to rest like that immediately after flying. They can defy gravity and rest upside down thanks to their heavy wings. Researchers from Brown University recorded a bat coming to rest on a net with a high-speed camera. Analyzing the footage showed that the bat retracts one wing while flapping the other at full extension when it comes in to land. The bat uses inertia generated by the twisting of the heavy wings to spin halfway in midair and grasp the ceiling, and finally lands upside down. When researchers changed the bat's wings to a fly's wings in a computer simulator, they noticed that the bat failed to land. The researchers stated that this research on bat movement could be useful in the development of human-made flying machines.
Looking at all the animals around us, we realize that some truly amazing things are happening in the realms that are beyond human control. But genetic manipulation is creating animals with some very distinct traits. Let's take a look about this in Take a Peek.
About 100 deaths due to dengue fever were recorded in Taiwan in 2014. Dengue fever is caused by the dengue virus, which is spread by mosquitoes. It causes high fever and even hemorrhagic fever in worst-case scenarios. A research is underway to use mosquitoes to eliminate mosquitoes that transmit dengue fever. Researchers have modified the genetics of mosquito by inputting a lethal gene into the mosquito.
They only live 2 or 3 days and then they will die in the environment. And then after they have mated, their progeny, their offspring, will die as well.
The male mosquito passes on the lethal gene through mating, and the offspring dies before it reaches sexual maturity. Trial releases of such genetically modified mosquitoes in Brazil and Panama have resulted in a 90% drop of the local mosquito population. There have also been developments on genetically modifying mosquitoes that carry malaria. Moreover, anticoagulation medication is currently being made from the milk of genetically modified goats. There are also genetically modified silkworms that create spider silk and genetically modified pigs with strong muscles. These genetically modified animals are leading the way towards a new life in the future. Korean researchers have discovered new principles regarding supernovas. A research team led by Professor Im Young-shim of Seoul National University captured images of a supernova about 80 million light-years away. And the team's observations gave evidence for a new theory, stating that the explosion was caused by the interaction between a white dwarf star and a regular star. A supernova is an explosion of a star in its last phase of stellar evolution. It's hundreds of millions times brighter than a regular star. Among a binary star or a pair of stars, a supernova takes place when one absorbs a matter from the other. Current theories state that a supernova takes place when a white dwarf star rapidly absorbs matter from its partner red giant star and explodes. A white dwarf star is a star that is in the final evolutionary phase of stars and is in a heavily shrunken state. A red giant star is in a state of evolution before that of a white dwarf star. 70% of all dementia cases are made up of Alzheimer's disease. Protein pieces called beta amyloid forms plaque in the brain, leading to memory loss and a loss of cognitive functions. Korean researchers became the first in the world to develop EPPS, a chemical that destroys the protein plaque in the brain. Feeding water infused with EPPS to a mouse afflicted with Alzheimer's disease for 3 months resulted in beta amyloid plaque disappearing from the hippocampus in the brain. EPPS had dissolved the beta amyloid in the brain and cured the mouse of dementia. Moreover, during behavioral tests, a mouse with Alzheimer's disease was unable to remember which path it took, but a mouse that took EPPS passed the test. This research has set a goal of establishing EPPS as a new form of treatment for dementia. Researchers believe that since the absorption rate of EPPS is high and EPPS has low toxicity, it has a great potential of being developed into a stable medication. Pneumonia starts off as a light cough, but can lead to sepsis or even death in more severe cases. It is the 5th leading cause of death in Korea, and about 12,000 people lost their lives in 2014. Korean researchers have discovered that consuming red ginseng is effective in warding off pneumonia. Researchers fed mice red ginseng concentrate twice a day for 2 weeks and injected pneumonia-causing bacteria into these mice and mice that weren't fed red ginseng. All mice that consumed red ginseng survived, while more than half of the mice that didn't died in about 4 days. Moreover, almost 99% of the pneumonia-causing bacteria had been eradicated in the blood of the mice that had consumed red ginseng.
균의 생장을 억제를 해가지고 우리 몸에 들어온 균을 99% 없앱니다. 그렇게 함으로 해서 이게 폐혈증을 예방을 하는 그런 효과가 굉장히 탁월한 것을 저희가 확인했습니다.
However, even a vaccine cannot perfectly shield a person from pneumonia, as there are around 95 types of bacteria that cause the disease. Researchers hope that the consumption of red ginseng can prevent pneumonia and provide an early cure to the disease. The study has been published in the international therapy-oriented journal Phytomedicine.
When the weather is cold and dry like the winter weather these days, we are exposed to more breathing disorders. If you are worried about catching pneumonia or the flu, just remember that red ginseng can do. Remember that prevention is actually the best medicine. InfoScope will be back next week with more breaking news. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye!